The conversion of 46,000 junior school teachers from interns into permanent and pensionable terms is not part of the deals agreed upon between the Teacher Service Commission, TSC, and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, set to be deposited before the Employment and Labor Relations Court tomorrow. This has been revealed by KUPPET Secretary General Akelo Misori in an exclusive interview with NTV's senior reporter Ibrahim Karanja. Misori now says that the declaration by the President, Education CS Julius Ogamba, and some members of Parliament, including the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee in the National Assembly, that is Ndindi Nyoro, that 18.7 billion shillings had been set aside for this exercise were mere statements, as there was no corresponding action with the National Treasury. He has further downplayed any disquiet within the union over the suspension of the strike.
Thank you, SG Akelo Misori. The words that you used when suspending the strike, in fact, you used the word suspended. You didn't call it off. What does that mean?
So we had agreed on certain principles in that engagement, but it was lacking the touch of law. And that is the reason for which we are saying that for any avoidance of doubt, members should not be overexposed if you call off and you are not sure of certain determinants.
So what does it mean to suspend? Does it mean that if you do not get to a
if you don't get a return to work, appropriate one, then you now not need to even issue a notice. You just lift the suspension and, it is all systems go.
I have never heard of this before.
The word suspend
I've never heard it in the context of
it's like taking some equipment and you hang it, and then you leave it there. So when you remove it, it goes back to where it was. Yes.
Will it be a legal? What would be the legal standpoint if you don't get a return to work formula?
I just want to reveal to you certain aspects of industrial action. Mm-hmm. That industrial action is a negotiating tool. It is not a punitive tool like other people would want to believe. We go for industrial action not to perpetuate a standoff, but to make the employer or workers come from where they are to the ground where the workers are. So that is what we use. So when you have agreed on certain principles and there are matters which are pending in court, you have got the room to suspend the strike.
A section of teachers are unhappy. There is a growing disquiet that you called off the strike when you shouldn't have. There are those who are saying
I want to say this.
That the NGC
that
sat on Sunday did not sanction the suspension.
Somebody who is working, who is exercising delegated authority, there is no framework of calling off a strike. No framework. The only major condition in calling off a strike is a return to work formula. A return to work, which we have already signed. We are only actualizing because it was a court matter. Okay. Yes. So another thing which must be understood, you must also have the best interest of this country and the best interest of our teachers and the best interest of the union. So if you act in bad faith, and I think I started with this, if you don't follow, you burn bridges, and then the next day you will use them. So people who are moving around and peddling mischievous information about this, they also know very well that the National Governing Council sitting on Sunday last week had mandated the National Executive Board to pursue only one thing, a return to work formula. If they got it, then they would call off. And I have said and I'm repeating, the formula for calling off of getting this or suspension is not determined in our processes.
Part of the reasons as to why you went on strike was the collective bargaining agreement, which was already implemented. There was the employment of junior secondary school teachers, which you're telling us right now is not part of what you agreed. There is the career progression guidelines, which you say you got. So what else did you get from this strike? What is the biggest gain?
First, you remember that it is because of this strike that the 11 billion which had been removed from the teachers' medical cover, which was a prime issue, has been restored. The career progression, which is the one we agreed upon in 2018, we thinking that it was a very good mode of progression, has become a punitive measure to punish teachers, and therefore has created another branch of servitude where deputy principals are acting in capacities without acting allowance. It is this strike which has lifted that bar, and we have gotten assurance from the Minister of Labour to team up with the Teacher Service Commission to ensure that Salaries and Remuneration Commission lift the circular which has made the Teacher Service Commission not to pay the teachers. So it is this strike which has also made the employer to come from the ivory tower to listen to the issues which we had written to them in terms of demand. So we have got nearly everything that we could have got in a strike. You know, strikes are not, you cannot get everything that you set out to get. Because some of them, as workers, we may think that they are very easy to implement. For example, if we are talking about you want junior secondary school teachers to be employed, it is something which was said in politics, that the Minister for Education gave us a promissory note of 47 billion. We saw even the president of this country, and in fact, we will be seeing him over this matter. Because the Teacher Service Commission was under pressure to include it according to our list of demands in our return to work formula. But we have to leave it out because it is something which is subject to further engagement in government.
But even
in fact,
SG,
in fact, one thing which must be known, that even if you go before a competent jurisdiction like courts, you cannot ask the court to compel an employer to employ two people. The courts will ask you, do you have the capacity to pay? So we realized that the Teacher Service Commission wanted a commitment from Treasury that this money was available so that we could include it in our return to work. So that is why members saw that it was not part of what we agreed. So, but all other things that they wanted, some of them are addressed in very serious detail in the return to work formula, which is a part of the consent, which I don't want to allude to in the court tomorrow.
are you under siege, SG Akelo Misori, especially from the discord that we are here?
No. Look at me. I cannot be under pressure. If I was under pressure, Karanja, I would not be in this office now. I would be finding holes to hide. But I challenge you that there are some of my members who are your friends, and it is working hours. Where are they?
But they say that you spent the night calling members and they're trying to quell the disquiet.
This is a very superior phone. It even records voices of people. I want you to open and even find this phone book, whether I called Tunui, whether I called Chelanga, whether I called Obucha, whether I called Korir, whether I called the chairman or Jenga or Nterema, or even Maingi. I've not called anybody. There's another thing. You cannot have authority with the right, and then you create fear also with the left. That is not the basis of a leader who want to exercise leadership. When others want to pick very few undoings, we imagine their undoings. With me, I remain steadfast in pursuing the ideals of this organization. This organization is pretty to me, and I don't think it is any amount of threat which can cause trouble with me.